Esperamos que hayan disfrutado del break. Y vamos a retomar la segunda parte de nuestra jornada AM del Congreso. Y vamos a retomar nuestro programa con la presentación de la doctora Sharon Hall, Associate Dean and President Professor del College of Global Futures en Arizona State University, quien nos hablará sobre innovación educativa para la sostenibilidad global. Por favor, Sharon, come here. Adelante. Vamos a hablar sobre su biografía. La doctora Sharon Hall es reconocida líder en el campo de la sostenibilidad global, con más de 2 décadas de experiencia en la integración de soluciones innovadoras para abordar los desafíos ambientales, sociales y económicos. En Arizona State University lidera iniciativas globales que buscan transformar la educación superior en un motor de cambio para el futuro sostenible. Su presentación va a ser en inglés y vamos a tener traducción simultánea para los asistentes y la transmisión online. Un aplauso, por favor.
Thank you so much, and especially thank you to my UNAB hosts. Arizona State is a proud partner of UNAB because we have a very, very similar mission, which I'd like to talk to you about today. And I'm happy to be here. I am going to be speaking in English. Earlier in the presentations, I had these 2 wonderful translators with English coming into my ears from your presentation. So if you have the opportunity to do that, it's worth it because they are lovely women up there who are doing this work. Most of us are here at this conference because we believe there is an urgent need for academics and especially universities to become much more responsive to society. We know that this is the decisive decade. Uma did this incredible job talking about all the challenges, and we know this because we do this work. But there's a problem, right? We got this incredible social and environmental need, and yet universities are struggling. Why are we struggling? You know, universities were created out of this European model, at least in my country, where we were taught to be thinkers and scholars and to think about the big ideas of the world and then teach students. And it's gotten to be very academic. I mean, that's really what it is. And yet we know that at universities we are told, and we agree with this, that we are a trusted, neutral space for people to try new ideas. But most of us were not trained to do this. I'm a professor of conservation biology and ecology, and I was trained to write papers. I write a lot of academic papers. I was trained to get grants, big grants. Good job, right? Get grants. We're trained to talk at conferences. We are not trained to ask the really important questions, which is, what do you need as a community? Where are the problems in your community? And listen to what the communities need and then respond with innovation and with respect and compassion and just passion within the community. We don't have this knowledge here. Also, another really important thing is you can then get professors to be better, but then there's the structures in the university that are baked in. How can you ask a professor who has teaching 5 classes and needs to get this many grants, where's the time to go do the community work if there's all these other pressures? But more importantly, we don't know how to do this. And for example, if a company says, I need a solution to clean energy, and I know that you have experts in microgrids and electrification, we need this project in 2 weeks. Can you give us a report? Well, there's no way because we have an academic calendar and it's just stuck. Even if they want to work with students, our students are working on either the quarter system or the semester system. We have 2 options for our clients. And then what do the clients do? They walk away and they go to McKinsey or any of these big other global consultants and they don't get the benefit of university wisdom. The structures are slow and bureaucratic and they need to be changed. And finally, our main mission of education, this is something that we're trained to do. In the last piece, we're doing it too slow. We're not doing it big enough. In Arizona, which is the part of the country that I come from in the Southwest, 1 out of every 4 students does not graduate from high school still. In the United States, with all this, resources, less than 50% of our high school graduates go on to tertiary education. And I suspect there's something similar in your regions around the world. Now, this failure, we know we are in the universities. This has consequences for our country. Higher education graduates lead to a more educated and a financially well-off national workforce, which improves people's quality of life. It improves our region's economic growth, and it improves our ability to compete in this knowledge-based economy. So all of those words that I just said, that's exactly what our decision makers want to hear. It's not that we are training students for just knowledge's sake, but we need to then align our universities with national and regional and local priorities and speak to the decision makers in that not only will we train students in conservation of biodiversity, we also will then be addressing and training people in the workforce to address the needs of that community in the future. And then it's a win-win, and we know how to do this. So what I'd like to do then is Arizona State, I'll show you where we are, and I want to talk to you about ASU as a case study. We are an incredibly large university, the largest in the United States. We also have been doing this sort of sustainability work for about 15 to 20 years, and we have a lot of lessons learned in our political climate in the US. So I will show you some wins, but know that I am here primarily to show you things that we've done and then listen and learn from you, because we cannot do this in a global context without the knowledge from you and your communities. Yes? Okay. Thank you. So there's 3 things. I've been at the university as a professor for 20 years. I started off as assistant professor, got tenure, associate, full professor, I'm president's professor, and now I'm a dean. So I see my helicopter in the training. Our helicopter is high now. I can see some other issues of the university institutionally. And I've seen 3 things that matter at ASU. 1 is durable leadership and a mission that matters, that not only people inside the university, but outside the university that really care about, especially funders and philanthropists who want to do something more with their money. We need to retrain faculty members, and we also need to adapt the university's structures to be change agents for these urgent societal needs. Again, you'll see that ASU has many successes in these areas, but my goal here is to collaborate and to learn from you. Okay, so this is Michael Crow. He is our president, and he's important to us because he helped us over the last, about 15 years ago, come up with this particular mission. Now, it's funny, so Yuma, you talked about this idea that mission is important, and it seems very superficial, but this mission is a guiding light for us. And we hear the president every day, no joke. Every single time I see him, I'm crossing campus, hello, Dr. Crow, he talks about this mission over and over and over. And when people come to ASU for a visit, they tell me 2 things. 1 is that there's something in the water where everyone knows this mission by heart, not just professors, students, people on campus. Everyone knows this, and they are struck by this culture, the culture of optimism, possibility, and entrepreneurship that this charter, this mission inspires. So again, the first lesson here is that to be an impactful university, and you were saying actually to contribute to society, impactful is a funny word, we need to feel this mission, not with just our minds, but really feel it in our hearts. That is what matters. And then, important, repeat, 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 and just have this as a mantra in our head. So what I want to do is just in the first part, just break down some of the parts of this mission and give you some examples of what we are doing at ASU around being a globally impactful university. Just the context here, we are a very large public research university with about $1 billion annually of research expenditures. This is important for us because we have the reach to then take the type of research and do it differently. And this is an example. This is Dr. Greg Asner over on the right-hand side. He is a professor of landscape ecology, remote sensing, and he lives in Hawaii. Hawaii, as you know, has a big indigenous population. So he's working with some philanthropists to map the coral reefs of the planet. Everywhere, map coral reefs. However, that's just not enough, because it's just not enough. He is also working with the local people there who know those coral reefs. They have traditional and local knowledge that's very important, and he cannot do this work without permission and well-being of the local community. And so this is an example of this integrated world-class research with community engagement that we are really proud of in this first part of doing research with public value. The second part of our mission has to do with who we include, not who we exclude, because in the United States, as you probably know, we have these very expensive, private, elite institutions who do very good at educating a small number of people. I went to some of those institutions, but we need, in this next decade and a half, we need to do things much faster. So these are some of our wins. About 40% of our students are the first generation to go to college in their families. That is incredibly important to us, because we need to do not only world-class research for the planet, we also need to bring society, bring students along with us, because, of course, education is the foundation to a better well-being. So if we cannot do this and only do the other, we feel like we will have failed. So it's very important for us to have these numbers. I want to point out one last thing. We are so proud that Starbucks, you know Starbucks, I see Starbucks here in Santiago. I know you have good coffee also, but Starbucks is here. We are partnering with them to give their baristas, workers, free college education. And in the United States, where nothing is free, a free college education is incredible. So we've now graduated 15,000 students of workers at Starbucks with a free college education, and that makes us feel really proud, because we feel like this is us being useful to society. The last thing is the most important for this conference is we started on this journey about 20 years ago. I know that Chile is leading America and the world in developing campus sustainability practices, and we at ASU are really looking forward to learning from you here. In 2006, we created the first school of sustainability in the world. No one knew what that word meant. And still, I know the word is still challenged in our political environment in the US, but we are holding the course because we think that this school is quite important for the world. And also, we were very happy. It took us a while. Okay, so this is time. You know, you start something, you think, oh, it's going to be adopted. It's taken 20, 15 years to get to the next step, which is then to require a course on sustainability for every one of our 158,000 students. So it takes time. Who said that? Time and patience is what is really required in this work. One last example of our charter here, I know I have a short time, is it's incredible. This is Dr. Klaus Lackner on the right-hand side. This is an example of how our faculty members, just a traditional engineer, decided what he was doing was not enough. We know we need to take carbon out of the atmosphere. He has the science and the technology to be able to do that, but how do you bring that to market? And we know now that this is going to be a very important issue. In our country, there are many companies who are oil companies actually jumping in and doing carbon collection. And so we're partnering with Carbon Collect it's a company to take carbon out of the atmosphere. And this for us is assuming fundamental responsibility for the health of the communities we serve. Okay. The second part of being an impactful university is retraining us who are trained as researchers and teachers to be better, to be faculty plus in order to meet this need. One of the ways we are doing this is building them as knowledge entrepreneurs. Now, people, like sometimes in the academy, we think we don't want to deal with companies or capitalism. We're just pure knowledge, right? But what we're trying to say is that let's take this knowledge and be entrepreneurial and innovation and innovative about it. Take it out there and say, do you need help? Here's how I can help. I think it's just it's an internal thing that we're thinking about. So one of the best ways that we're doing this is taking, we have 6,000 faculty members. We're aiming to retrain them. This is my leadership cohort. This is really important. So the university pays for our faculty members who are trained as scientists or mathematicians or economists to take leadership training that tells us how to build a strategic plan, how to launch a really big idea in the university, how to take and do technology transfer. We know none of these things coming in as young professors. Another important thing is that this group here is not just professors, it's half filled with executives from the corporate sector who do know how to do this really well. They know how to run a meeting on time. They are incredible at working within society, but they don't know all of the content knowledge that we bring as faculty members. And so we become friends. This is the key part. Remember I talked about heart, is that we trust each other, we learn from each other, and this is what changes culture. It's the culture of faculty in the university that's really slow, and I think that building these relationships, I think, is really important. Our president often says, leadership is not the position, it's how you think and what you do. So every single person in the university, no matter if you're a full professor or a famous professor, and that doesn't matter. It's more about you as anybody there taking the initiative to do something impactful and say, how can I be useful? I think it's really important. We cannot be innovative at universities at the speed and the scale that we need to address the problems until every person is pulling in the same direction, and we take that very seriously. How is my speed of talking? Is it okay? Thank you. The second thing that we do in this area, again, is building these relationships. This is, excuse me here. Oh, okay. We have these informal faculty and corporate engagement networks where we bring industry in and faculty in, and we have these conversations, and more importantly, we have lunch together over the year to get to know each other. All right, the last thing, and this is going to be my last point here, is this is the hardest part, is adapting the structures of the university to then meet the needs of society. And as a faculty member, I study biodiversity, and these are incredibly important and exciting ideas. The idea of changing structures in a university sounds very not so fun. But it is incredibly exciting work because it's so important, and I want to tell you about this unit in particular. First, does sandbox translate? You know what sandbox? It's a place where there's sand and kids play in there, they interact, you throw sand at each other. Every university we have seen, we think, because it's happening with us, needs a unit, exploratory, where you can put innovative ideas. You can ask your faculty to do crazy things. You can try new things without upsetting the balance of the university. One thing we did was we created this unit called the Global Futures Laboratory, with that name to be a new national laboratory for the planet, not just to build weapons, for example, in our country. So there is ASU, this is the Global Futures Laboratory, and the important structural piece here is that my college is the sandbox. It's where every crazy idea that the president has about being impactful goes into our college. We have 4 schools: sustainability, oceans, complexity, and innovation. And then we are located within a research unit. All the other colleges are in the traditional university, the traditional academic university. And so here we have a solution service, we have research that goes straight and develops our curriculum, and then we change students to be change agents rather than having knowledge come first and training our students. Does that make sense? It's a structural difference. And that's really important for us because that structure allows us to free ourselves from some of the constraints. For example, To develop a new degree program, a major, let's say a new master's degree, can take 2 years in my university sometimes. It goes through many checks, If we need to create a new degree program, for example, we're creating a new degree in carbon management, how do we do that fast? We need to then try something very different structurally. And so that's really important to us. Here's an example of one of our faculty members. This is Nate Johnson. He's an engineer by training, and that's important. Engineer by training, but he's engineer plus because he does electrification and microgrid with solar panels around the world. And not only does he help with the solutions, he has all the technical knowledge in his team, but also he has ability to do a full service. So there's different ways that faculty can partner. You can partner with government to co-develop ideas with industry, or you could be a faculty member who consults and helps industry do things, or communities do things. So he has a curation step here where he is aiming to change the culture of innovation. We work with businesses, and then we need to make sure that the academics are engaged. So there's papers there's things that they can be rewarded for, and then there's some solutions. And so for those who are in engineering, this may not be that novel, but for the rest of the university, this is incredibly novel, because how do you know the legal framework to, for example, partner with an industry and do the contracting, do the financing? There's no way for a company to pay a professor, for example, just simple. No way just to pay for a service. There's just not that. So we have to develop new structures, and Nate Johnson is really leading the way in this. I have one other example here, and this is a different kind of faculty engagement. These are two exceptional professors. They are full professors of geography and community engagement. Okay, let me set the stage. Phoenix had 113 days of weather over 37 degrees C last year. It is incredibly hot, and we know that this is killing many people, but we just don't know, like, okay, who? Well, let's ask the community. So what they did is they went out to the community, and they found out just through their research with their students that people who are living in these, we call them trailer parks, or they are mobile homes here. They're essentially metal boxes in 100-degree Fahrenheit weather. It's just awful. And then what they did is they talked to the community about, they put sensors in the community and worked to see how hot it was, and then they did a map of where these are. And the final step was they then developed a report to the governor of Arizona to talk about heat vulnerability. So this is a different model. This is people going into the community, finding out what's going on, and curating the knowledge into some resources, and then pushing it up to policy into the government. And we feel very proud, but because it's a different kind of model. Because it's important. If you're going to ask the university to do community engagement, you just can't say, here's how you're going to do it. You need to give some options, because people want some agency and they have different talents. Okay, I'm coming to the end here. One of the last things I want to talk about here is it's procedural, but it's extremely important about how faculty members, professors are rewarded. In the US, and I know in Europe, and maybe here also in Chile, that we are rewarded with a document that says, here's how you're going to get tenure, you're going to be promoted. It will be many papers in many fancy, big journals. It's going to be getting multi-million-dollar grants from the government. And the last piece is service. The last piece is always service. So the provost of the university and Mickey Kittleson, by the way, this is not a coincidence. These two women who are leaders in our university, they are first generation in their families to go to college. And so they are paving the way to change the system to make it better. We are changing our promotion and tenure guidelines to reward impact, but that's very difficult. How do you measure contribution or impact? But well, I've seen from working with this team that we now have actual measurements for this. This is Cliff Capono. He is a faculty member, and he's an ocean faculty member, and he is a native Hawaiian who works with his communities. He's also a professional surfer, and he's also a professor of molecular biology. And he is developing new ways to broaden participation in science that nobody else could do except from someone from that community who's now on our faculty. And we would like to reward this work, even though it's not the traditional paper, grant. He gets many of his dollars from sponsorships from companies who are liking his videos because he's broadening participation. So we really feel very, very good about this. The last slide, the last tip that I will share to you, these pro tips for universities, is we realize even in our own mission that we do very well. We're not doing it fast enough, and we're not being responsive to the community because we know that people are learning across their lifetime. And if you need people all to have the agency to go out and vote, to get up and say, I'm going to improve my life, you need to have some offerings that are available to them. So instead of the university and its big columns, you come to us, no. We are aiming to go out to people with different modalities. And this is not just synchronous, asynchronous, online, in person. We're changing the size of the course, 1 week, 2 week, 5 weeks, 1 year engagement. It's the community first saying, what do you need? How can we build something for you? In terms of costs, we aim to develop some of these programs for free, and then we charge companies much more money, and then we supplement the education this way. But I think this structural change is really important for us because we have to get out of the ivory tower, is what we say, out of the ivory tower and into the communities. And this is one way that we are showing that we could do that. And I know from talking to you that many of you are doing the same. So I'd like to end by saying that ASU, we've done a really good job at being innovative. In our country, we are really pushing the boundaries, and university leaders come to me all the time and say, how are you able to do this innovative stuff? What are your barriers? And so we are learning from each other in the US. But I am humbled by the work that is going on here and realizing this partnership with UNAB and ASU is extremely important for our two countries as well as for North America and South America and the world. I hope that we can connect to share these ideas. This is our new building funded by a very generous donor. It's our new building for planetary health. It's gorgeous. I invite you to come visit us. This is my email. We would love to talk to you. Gracias.
Please stay with us. We have. ¿Aló? ¿Se escucha? No se escucha. Tenemos un par de preguntas. We have some questions for you. Yeah. During these 20 years, you have accumulated many experiences. What will you say are the key points to advance in sustainable development and community engagement for your institution?
Thank you for that question. I think for us, the hardest thing, you can change structures and that all takes time. The hardest thing is changing the culture of the university to get people to care about this when they have many other things to care about. And so that culture work, we realize cannot come top down. It just can't. You can tell faculty members they need to do this or tell the university, but it just won't work. And so what we are trying to do is do it bottom up by finding the champions, and so it's going to be a 10%, 1% of the faculty who is going to really care about this. Then we give them incentives, we trot them out and show the university that this can happen, and then people catch on because it looks fun. It looks fun to do this work. So I think for us, this has been the biggest challenge.
Thank you. And the next one, from your perspective, what are the challenges you see for Latin American countries in community engagement?
Thank you. This is my first time to Chile, so I'm humbled by this question. I think, there's some challenges, but I also see that there's incredible unity across Chile, where in the US, the culture that we have there is very competitive across the universities, and we don't share as much as we should. So I think that one of the ways to do this is to cross over and find the group of people who care about this and then partner with them. I think that there may be many challenges for this, the distances that you will have to travel to do this work. The cost of coming together, I think, is a challenge. I think moreover, it's convincing our presidents of our universities and the leaders who can actually make a difference in the mission to do this work. We struggle. Michael Crow talks about our university. I mean, he had to label it New American University because it's different in our country, and he's fighting an uphill battle every day. I imagine it's going to be very similar here in Latin America.
Thank you so much. Please stay with us because we have a gift for you.
Thank you.
Agradecemos entonces un fuerte aplauso para Sharon. Tenemos también un pequeño presente que lo va a entregar nuestro director de vinculación con el medio y sostenibilidad y la respectiva foto. Muchas gracias.